Good afternoon, John. John
Hey, Marty.
Donovan,
Hey,
my guru and my colleague down in Oceanside, California. Marty Keller here in Sacramento, California. I returned from Costa Rica, and it's always good to be with you. First
yeah,
podcast of September,
yeah,
so it's already almost autumn coming up in a couple weeks.
it is. Yeah, and I'm going to turn this month. I'll start my 75th year.
That's right. You got the birthday. What's the date?
The 15th, I'll turn
All right,
74.
9/15. And then 2 weeks after, or the week after you, I turned 72. So I keep trying to catch up.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's a never-ending story.
I know
Quest.
that's like life.
Hmm.
As long as you're still there for me to follow, I'm happy.
Cool.
So, last time we had an opportunity to chat. As I mentioned, I was in Costa Rica and I shared with you some experiences that I had there. And so, because of the way life is, I had more, and I just wanted to share this particular one with you and with our listeners. When I talked to you, I was up in the northwest corner of the country in cloud forest country,
Hmm.
and we were in this beautiful little town called Santa Elena, and the region's called Monteverde, which is, as you know from your Spanish, that's a green mountain. So
Yeah.
beautiful, lush green mountains, cloud forests, and then the next week, we went in the completely opposite direction. We went to the southeast to the Caribbean coast.
Uh,
And the Caribbean coast, the Caribbean province is called Limon, and it's on the other side of the mountain chain that runs down the center of the country and is mostly volcanic. And for many, many years, the mountains blocked off Congress between this province, the Caribbean province, and the rest of the country. And so it's relatively underpopulated compared to the rest of the country. It's relatively undeveloped. It's almost entirely a rural agricultural area. It started off its history as a place where they grew cultivated cacao,
hmm.
and then they tried sugarcane, and then they do bananas now. And so it's just mostly a series of uh, either big plantations or small family-owned farm enterprises. And when you get to Limon, which is the main town, it's there on the coast. It's in either direction, north or south, or actually east or west. Um, there are just miles and miles of these gorgeous beaches that are essentially undeveloped. And we went toward the Panama border when we got to Limon, and we passed all these pristine white sand beaches, incredible, without a soul on them, out a
Hmm.
building, just beautiful beach.
Wow.
And you get to the end of the road about 40 miles down, 40, 45 miles down from Limon, and there's a series of beach towns that cluster around the end of the road there, and we stayed in one of them. And the thing that first struck me about the area is how incredibly hot and humid it was. We're talking temperatures in the upper 80s, but humidity up there in the 90 percentile. It's just
Wow.
really, really completely different. You remember your experience in Costa Rica. It's pretty comfortable and it's
Yeah.
cool. It's cooler in the Central Highlands. It's,
Yeah.
you're at 3,000 feet there. Well, here we're at zero. And so when we got there, it was sunset, which is around 6 o'clock. And the kind of the minute we got there, the heavens opened up and this huge rain just came pouring down buckets, just like so much water trying to get down to the earth so fast. It was utterly incredible. And no wind, no lightning, no thunder, just this steady, heavy downpour. So we
Wow.
decided to pick up some provisions, and we'll just stay inside, try rather than try to explore the place because we didn't have a car. We got dropped off, and so for about 4 or 5 hours, it just poured rain, and we had a nice little repass, and then decided it's time to go to bed because it's dark and we're not much to do. So we had I had decided to open the window in this little bedroom I was in and turn the air conditioning off and just have the fan rotating, and because it was cooling off. Um, so somewhere around a little 1:30 or so, I woke up and I was feeling a bit hot. So I said, I think I'll get up and turn the air conditioning on. And I got up and I realized the fan wasn't on, and then I realized there was no electricity.
Mm-hmm.
There we were in hot, humid Cocles on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, no electricity. So, all right, so I managed to get back to sleep anyway and got up in the morning, and there was still no electricity. So that meant there was no way to make coffee, there was no way to make toast, there was no hot water for showers. So I tried my best to be very manful and take a cold shower.
Yeah.
I found out what a wimp I am. So here's what happened. So I really got upset. And I said to Victoria, my friend that I was traveling with, I said, if this continues, if they are unable to fix this electrical thing, I want to go back. I don't want to stay here. This is really uncomfortable, hot, humid, can't take care of ourselves. Um, well, Victoria's lived there for 23 years, and she's like, well, let's just see. And so we were scheduled to take a tour of a local national forest, a beautiful jungle forest along the coastline there. And so this young man came to pick us up around 7:30, and Victoria says to him as we're heading off, it's a half-hour drive to where we're going. She goes, um, "Do you think you could find us a place where we could stop and get some coffee and maybe a quick bite to eat because we were unable to do that?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." So we get to this little restaurant in this little beautiful little town called Cahuita, and
Mm-hmm.
it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's like hot and humid. It's like, oh my God, how do people put up with this?
Mm-hmm.
And he shows us this little restaurant, and it's all outdoor seating, so there's no air conditioning. It's just going to sit there in this heat, and I just lost it. I was just really, really upset. And so I said, while we were waiting for someone to come and take our order, I said to Victoria, would you be willing to listen to me tell my truth? And she said, yeah, sure. So I said, I'm pissed off, I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm frustrated, I don't want to be here. Um, and I could feel like tension in my rib cage, just really feeling this collection of unhappy feelings.
Yeah.
And then I said, so okay, what do I want? How do I want to feel? So I took a breath and I said, okay, I want to feel peaceful, I want to feel at ease, I want to feel happy. So I put that into an intention. I intend to feel at ease, at peace, and happy. And not long after that, the coffee came, and I was able to feel a little bit normal, just taking this little sip of coffee. And I could slowly but surely feel my body's experience shifting. And about 20 minutes later, we finished our coffee and got up to meet this guide who was going to walk us through the national park. And I was just feeling better. And I said to Victoria, I just really want to acknowledge you and thank you for standing by me as I'm doing my processing.
Yeah.
But I really love you, and the guide heard me say this to her, and he said something to me, and I said, "Well, I really love you too, Manuel. I'm feeling way better." And we had a nice time, and uh, the this national park that we took a stroll through was really lush and magnificent. We got to see holler monkeys and white-faced monkeys and sloths and iguanas and tarantulas and all kinds of stuff that
Yeah.
we don't have hanging around here in Sacramento.
Right.
So so I did the accountability process, and that was my experience. And as it turned out, the story wasn't over. So 2 nights later, the night before we were going to leave, we were out at this very nice restaurant on the beach. And again, it's dark. It's like I said, it gets dark at 6 o'clock. So this is around 8 o'clock. And we heard this boom off in the distance, and the power went off in this restaurant. And
Huh.
then it came right back on. They apparently had a generator. But as we were walking back to the apartment that we were staying in, we noticed that all the street lights in this little road that our place was on were all off. And sure enough, when we got to the apartment, there was no electricity again.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost it again. I just, and I say I lost it. I just had this feeling arise that was very uncomfortable. And God bless Victoria. She goes, "Well, I'm going to bed. There's nothing to do. I'm just going to go to bed." And I'm sitting there going, "Well, we're not getting picked up till tomorrow at 8, 10 o'clock. So I got 13 hours I got to deal with without electricity." And so I decided to lay down on the couch because there were more open windows in the living room than the bedroom. And I'm laying there, John, and I'm feeling this energy, and I'm feeling like it's like a boa constrictor
Yep.
wrapping itself around my body and squeezing. And I thought, okay, what's really going on here? I mean, yeah, I'm frustrated and blah blah blah, but there's something else going on because this is persisting. And then what I came to was, oh, I like this. I like this feeling. I like
Mm-hmm.
I like being resentful and righteous and this damn country that can't get the electricity right and rah 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 rah. And as soon as I owned that, the boa constrictor left. And I was like, yeah, that's the truth I didn't get to the other day either. The truth is, I like feeling upset and resentful and angry and righteous and all this kind of energy. So I learned that. I got to learn that about myself. That
Yeah.
I think this is a hard truth for many of us to own, but I'll just speak for myself. It's often a hard truth to own that these difficult, angering, frightening, stressful feelings that we have are something that we're addicted to,
Yeah.
and that we actually find pleasure in them in what may seem to a logical mind a perverse way, but to my body, it feels absolutely natural.
Yep.
And the accountability tree process really has power
Yeah.
to face and confront and compassionately accept. I give myself permission to feel this way. And then, like magic, it just kind of drifted away.
Yep.
And then I started falling asleep, and then the power came back on.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that's cause and effect, but it certainly seemed to have some kind of there was some kind of connection in my mind anyway. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but I just
Um,
wanted to share that with you because I've shared that with several of the groups that I facilitate, and it's like it's in service of pointing out that this work is, I don't want to call it unending. It's just that this voyage of self-discovery continues to yield information that I kind of knew that before, but it really came home to me. It really struck me, uh, in this, and part of it may because I was away from home and I was in an unfamiliar environment, and so it helped me focus on what was going on. So anyway, just more learning and applying the accountability tree to life.
Yep. In the laundry list of adult children of alcoholics is 14 bullet points about um, the end result or behavior or tendencies stemming from family of origin dysfunction and childhood trauma. The eighth one is addicted to excitement. And when he first, Tony A, when he first started making these up, he had put addicted to fear.
Right.
But he thought, well, that doesn't sound, people won't buy that. But when he put addicted to excitement, which is the same thing, addicted to this adrenaline state, which is about fear. It can be exciting, like jumping off a perfectly good bridge with a
Well, it's
bungee.
excitement in the sense of agitation.
Yeah. So, and then we don't know. It's coming from our subconscious. And one of the terms I use is normalize my state. So, in an agitated, irritated, otherwise annoyed state, I became comfortable. And I had that. I was so far removed from my emotional and physical feeling body that anything I felt, anything that happened to me, like excitement, fear, which is my body flushed with adrenaline, became my equivalent to being alive. And I remember early in my recovery when I was working on this stuff, I I I said I'm bored, and I said it in front of a fellow traveler, somebody else in the program, and this person said to me because he had more time than I did, he said, "John, would you be willing to consider what you're calling bored is actually an open, high energy state where you're available to life?" Because in my childhood, I became familiar with not being available, stuffing my feelings, relying on my rational mind, my justification, criticism, and that became what I thought was a natural state, and had no idea what was going on, and found myself in chaotic situation, dramatic situation, time after time after time. Um, and I didn't know that I was addicted to the body chemistry of stress. Um, I remember one time, this is later, way into my recovery, but a couple of years ago, I had an interchange with my daughter, and I was feeling inadequate. I was obsessing over what happened. I said, well, this happened this way, and I go over and over and over. So I know that if I think about something more than 3 times, there's something in my childhood that needs attention. There's some unresolved childhood trauma. And I didn't catch it at 3. I probably caught it at 15, 20, or 30. I don't know. But I said, oh, that's what it is. So I laid down on my bed and I just felt my body, and my arms were tingly and my chest was like expansive and contracted, if it can be that at the same time. But it was like this heavy feeling and this surge. So I just laid down on my bed and started breathing. And then I noticed the body sensation, the feeling, the tingling in my arms, and heaviness and rhythm in my chest. And I just kept going back to it. And my mind would go, yeah, but if I heard her say, I was just doing what she wanted me to do. How come okay, no, back into my feeling body. And what I got was, I'm afraid of anything that resembles life, openness, vulnerability, expression, making a decision. So I got that the enemy became feelings, which I want to offer. Adrenaline mimics feelings. It's like I still get the chest going and the tingly, and I'm in an adrenaline state. chaos, drama, and I want that because that's the only way I can feel anything, even though it's adrenaline. And adrenaline's purpose is to take me out of my emotional body, take me out of my rational mind so I can react in a split second because of a life-threatening situation. Although I'm not aware. So, and I got it. Oh my God. That's what I became afraid of, is my own authentic expression. So I kept breathing and breathing, and this awareness just, oh my God, it's just, oh, wow. And like you said, like I heard you say, I knew this, but at this, it was deeper. It was a embodiment of this process. Um, so yeah, adrenaline, in my estimation, is the most addictive and the most used drug on the planet. It's accessed easily because I can create it myself. All I gotta do is like get righteous or think somebody's fucking with me, excuse me, or think, somebody's attacking me. No matter what's really going on, I can justify my irritated, agitated, otherwise annoyed. And I became familiar with it. That's what I knew life to be. One of the things I've owned is I'm mean to the point of cruelty. And then I added, and I take pleasure in it. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. That's crazy. No, wait a minute. So when somebody would be suffering, I'd up the ante with my abuse or humiliation. And this is a lot of times in the shop, but this particular time was with my daughter, and she was a little girl, like 5, 6 years old. And I got it because I remember this time I was doing that, and it was actually feeling alive. So I took pleasure. Holy cow! So, oh God, okay, I own that. I'm mean to the point of cruelty and take pleasure in it. I intend to be a loving, caring, nurturing father, which put me back into my emotional feeling body, which I had a lot of sadness. I'm going to offer regret, the idea of regret, but the feeling of, I wish that hadn't happened, regret. And it was a major turning point for me in my recovery and my capacity to facilitate and all kinds of things. So, and when I do the Saturday morning group, I got the basic material up on the board, and I go over it every Saturday morning. I make sure I go through what do you want, identify what you want. What I wanted was peace of mind, and then go through the obstacles, and all the obstacles lead to this subconscious pool of information where I hold my childhood trauma. And I want to offer, it's not just childhood trauma. Being 70 years old, I can say my preteens, teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s that were riddled with some kind of chaos and drama that impacted the childhood trauma. So it is mainly childhood trauma, but then the trauma I subject myself to over the years impacts the childhood trauma and puts layers of trauma on top of layers of trauma.
Well, I'd like to
So,
suggest, if I can, that it's not just that, but it's
mm-hmm,
the reinforcement of the original trauma
mm-hmm,
through habit.
yep,
So you have three things in my estimation. You have the original child unhealed trauma. You have
right,
the new stuff that we add through life, and then we have the reinforcement, the habits. That's how this addiction to adrenaline and related energies occurs,
yes,
because nothing intervenes to, not only does nothing intervene to stop that, everything intervenes to hype it,
yep,
keep it going,
yep,
because our culture is addicted to this.
yes, yes. Just look at, I remember asking you one time if I could talk to you about politics. And I believe your first statement was no. And it was like, I get it. And I was at a place where I just got there was something I didn't know. So I wanted to have a lucid And you were the first one I asked. I asked other people, and they're no. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not trying to prove myself right here. I'm trying to learn something I don't know. And having the dialogue, I can
Right.
pick, just because you say it doesn't mean I got to believe it, but I can pick and choose where my thinking is skewed. And I had nobody to talk to, because nobody on what I call the other side, which I now see is my fictitious making up so I can stay irritated, agitated, otherwise annoyed. Uh,
Right.
it's like, oh my God.
And don't
So,
forget righteous.
and righteous, yeah. Um, so the material in intentional living, the accountability tree, the obstacles, the subconscious pull, which I put in the form of an iceberg, which all that information from my total experience, which is riddled with trauma, inform my decision making process below my conscious level to ensure that I survived. And I survived a high state of adrenaline throughout my childhood. So I'm recreating very, what do you call it, imaginatively and creatively situations where I get to hit adrenaline. I get to hit adrenaline.
Yeah.
And I don't know that's happening. All I see is you're trying to prove, you're trying to make me look like an idiot, or you're attacking me, or you think you're better than all these things I had, rationalizations of why you do what you do and why I do what I do. It's like,
Well,
so.
and it's several things that you've always that you are like touchstones in our conversations. Like someone raises an eyebrow
Mm-hmm,
a certain way, or my
mm-hmm,
favorite one is someone leaves crumbs on the toast or butter.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it just based on what you were just saying, though, it seems to me there's a fourth element in this process that goes on and
Mm-hmm.
on and on until there's an intervention, which is the culture. So
Yes.
we're not doing this alone.
No.
We're 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 living in a world that manifests this addiction. And what struck me as we were saying that is when I was in Costa Rica, I went to the theater. We saw Oppenheimer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw it on the jumbo thing. I forget what they call
Mm-hmm.
that. And so we had to sit through 20 minutes of previews, and every single movie that's previewed had this deep rumbling
Yeah.
bass music, thundering
Yeah.
drums, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like I said, yeah, I got to get out of here. This is really annoying. But that's
Yeah.
adrenaline.
Yes.
That's Hollywood, like pumping the adrenaline, and you're supposed to get into it.
Yeah. It's entertainment. We're
Yeah.
supposed to be entertained by this chaos and murder
And
and
it's just
mayhem.
this one little element of how the culture, how we manifest our addiction to adrenaline and its associated feelings.
Right.
So that's
And
part of the
and
challenge that we have in. I'll just finish this thought, John. It's a part of
yeah.
the challenge that we have in recovery is to recognize that we are really swimming against the tide here.
Yep.
And it's part of the reason that many of us find it difficult. It's not because we're bad. It's not because we're weak. It's not because we don't love ourselves enough. It's not because we haven't mastered the tree. It's in part because everything else around us is pushing back. Don't
Right.
go there. Don't go there. What are you crazy? That's,
Mm-hmm.
here, have a hit of something. So
Right.
just
Right.
as a way to support ourselves, we've talked about this on the podcast before. We're pioneering here.
Yeah.
We're 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 marching to the beat of a different drum, and the other drums are pretty loud. And
Pretty
it's just
loud and persistent. They're persistent. When I first got in recovery, my immediate family thought I was joining a cult, and
yeah,
they thought, oh, all you do is talk about negative stuff. Why don't you just be happy? Why don't you let it go? I let it go. Come on, what's wrong with you? Let's go have a beer. It's like, okay, no, I don't drink. It's like, no, I can't do that. Well, what's wrong with you? What they get you? They brainwash you, John? I said, it's too late. I was brainwashed from the get go. So I'm trying to unwash this brain. I'm trying to like
right,
muck it up a little bit. So.
right. Well, that's one of the. In fact, I think we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago. We didn't I said I want to get into this in greater depth, so maybe we could do that right now, which is the value of the group process.
Mm-hmm.
That the group, when I do group work, I'm in a separate environment. I'm in a separate culture. I'm in a culture which is deliberately choosing to organize itself around the principles of the accountability practice
Right.
rather than the addictive behaviors of our general culture.
Right.
It's almost like a monastery where people step out of time and they create silence as a way of being in a different spiritual, emotional environment.
Right.
And so that very stepping aside that the group meeting represents has healing power all by itself. Just
Yeah.
even before someone opens his or her mouth, just the fact that we've chosen consciously to gather together to support each other in this investigation um, has it's almost I don't know that we can calculate its actual power,
Right.
but it's very significant.
Yeah. And we have agreements or guidelines about interjecting, asking questions, talking over, or and allow a person to express whatever they're expressing. It's not about right, wrong, good, bad. It's just about what's in them with no blame or judgment. Um, and the 12 step have set that up pretty clearly. I remember my first AA meeting where I heard myself say, I'm an alcoholic. Well, I didn't want to admit that out in the public because then everybody would like um, stigmatize me, or I'd be a bad person or a stupid person or a weak ass moral person. And when I said it in the group, they may even have clapped. I don't know, but it was well received. No blame, no judgment, and that experience added to my ability to put all this material together to simply me telling my truth without blame or judgment. And every time I do that, I have an experience in my body, absence of adrenaline. I have actual emotion and feeling, which I don't know how to even describe it. People try to describe it like I feel at peace or I feel relief, which are true, but the experience of healing, which is relief, or that other word I said, is free of adrenaline. And I'm still accepted. In fact, my example shows other people and gives other people maybe the courage to try it themselves. And as I'm taking somebody through the process, everybody there is going through a similar process, just witnessing somebody be vulnerable and try it, even though they don't understand what it is. And I could talk for, I don't know, 10 days, and the understanding would be, I want to say, minimal. And when a person goes through the experience, telling the truth, I'm an alcoholic, nice deep breath, they feel that this experience of something, whoa, what is that? And then I intend to hold myself in high regard, or I intend to be sober, whatever the intent is. And you're different from that moment on. It's something you added, a moment of self validation, a moment of self nurturing, being witnessed by, depending on how many people in the group, by the people in the group, you're being witnessed without being chastised, ridiculed, humiliated, asked questions to get you out of that into your head, explain why you do this, why, which is um, a motion killer. Like, why did you say that? It's like, no, I said that. Nice deep breath. And something happened, and I want to do that again. And I may still not have a way to articulate it or ask for it or even to understand it, and repeat, do it again, do it again, do it again. And I find myself in a different place. I find myself not riddled with adrenaline 24/7. And after a while, I want this state instead of the state I recreated most of my life, drama, chaos. and have the capacity to set healthy boundaries. It just happens. It's like somebody, how do you set healthy boundaries? Well, the first thing I tell them is, you don't know. If you knew, you would be setting healthy boundaries. So, no, I don't, and take that to the tree. I don't know how to set healthy boundaries. It's like the truth, because in your family of origin, there were no boundaries. Everybody was open and for ridicule, no boundaries whatsoever. You were completely vulnerable and had no power to stop it. So, um, I don't know how to set healthy boundaries is a truth. No blame, no judgment. It creates the emotion, the feeling tone, which heals the family of origin trauma, the childhood trauma. And it's a frequency thing, it's a feeling thing, it's a vibration that our bodies know how to do. We've lost our ability to even describe it because we're so unfamiliar with it. It's like trying to remember when you were 2 and running around doing all kinds of things cool, like 2-year-old things do, and you've forgotten. So, and I normalized this adrenaline state, so I'm looking for that instead of, oh, peace. Oh my God. I'm not like obsessing about this thing I used to obsess about for years. I would obsess about one little thing for a couple of years until something else came up and I could obsess about that thing. Now I'm going, oh, no, I don't want to do that. It is my intent to live in peace. And I find myself in action in a behavior that's different than what I used to be in. So it's a powerful, powerful modality.
I'd like to maybe for the newcomer here, maybe do a brief uh, discussion about the tree
Okay.
itself. Um, I'd like to lead it off because I have an insight that I've been working with I want to share with you.
Okay.
But so the accountability tree is a process. We call it a tree because the way it's John has set it up as a diagram. You start at the heart of this tree thing, and the branches are no blame, no judgment. So we're shaded from this tendency that we have to make ourselves bad, and then
Right.
we start with what's the truth. What's the truth of what's going on in my experience? And so I'll just use the example I used in Costa Rica. I'm laying there the second time the electricity is going out, and I'm noticing this feeling of having like a boa constrictor wrapped around my body. So I'm in my feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it was similar to what I heard you say when you were sharing your I thought or your experience when you just lay down in the bed to
Mm-hmm.
feel yourself into what was going on. Our
Mm-hmm.
bodies know the answers to these questions, but
Yeah.
we've trained ourselves to not hear it. No
Right.
blame or judgment. That's the way it is. Um, so I'm sitting there and I'm just like I'm feeling into it. It's like what's going on, and then all of a sudden the aha came. Oh, I like this. I like feeling like this. That's what's going on. So, all right. The truth is, I like feeling resentful, angry, frustrated, righteous. And that had a body sensation different from what I was feeling just a moment before. And the feeling was this uncoiling, this relaxation. So I took a breath. I asked myself, what do I want? And I said, I just want to be comfortable in my own skin. So I turned that desire into a statement of intention. I intend to be comfortable in my own skin. And then, boom, that's done. That's the accountability practice in a nutshell. And what I've discovered about this, and I use this in my facilitation, is that first part, I feel what I'm feeling, is the first act of reparenting because that feeling state is coming from a scared little boy who's suffering from complex PTSD, some trauma that has not yet been healed, and it's expressing itself through this energy. This, as you like to call it, I like that word, is this emotional vibration state.
Yep.
So what we're doing when we do that is we're giving unconditional loving attention to that little kid. That's I pay attention to the emotion and I ask myself, what am I feeling? That's essentially I'm saying to little Marty, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm here for you.
Yeah.
So then we feel it, and that's the little kid then finally being given the permission to express
Yes.
whatever's going on. Doesn't matter. The adult's not going to censor that. What did I experience as a kid? Censorship, diversion, diminishment, cruelty, all this kind. No, the opposite of that happens in the tree. I just give myself that loving, validating attention. So that's the first act of unconditional love. And then the second one is, okay, what do I want? Well, that's another act of love. It's like
Yeah.
implied, I get to want what I want.
Hmm.
And so I'm essentially saying to the little kid, you choose.
Yeah.
What do you want? Chocolate, vanilla? You want to go to the playground? You want to play baseball? You want to watch? What do you want?
Hmm.
And the answer I've learned from you, John, is to wait spontaneously for the answer to arise from my body, which it 99 times out of 100, I don't have to think about it. The answer comes from that emotional vibratory state I find myself in. I want to feel comfortable in my own skin.
Yep.
Another act of love. And then
Yeah.
thirdly, setting the intention, speaking it is another act of love. So for me, the accountability tree is the way to reparent myself. It's the way to learn to love myself. It may seem like a little thing in the moment, doesn't matter. Because when we were little kids, sometimes those little things our parents said to us made big repercussions inside us.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to. That's my thought about the tree and how the tree works.
I appreciate that. I love hearing you and the way you describe things, and I do it my way. And the
Yeah,
more people that have experienced this can describe it in their language and what you know, how you know through your experience, and it reaches more people. It's amazing. Yeah, the in the tree is like accountability. Let me bring it up.
sure.
On my share screen. Here it is. So up at the top, I got accountability tree. Then underneath, no blame, no judgment. That no blame, no judgment. If I just say the truth about where I find myself, character defect, like I'm an alcoholic or I'm mean, that's just saying the truth about where I find myself. Just simply stating the data. And the no blame, no judgment is the unconditional love I did not get from my parents.
Yeah, exactly.
And and I just remember there were times where I got unconditional love. I was allowed to be a boy. I remember little short bursts of stuff in there, which I'm grateful for. But most of the time was act right, don't do that, you're stupid, or you're a pain in the ass, or you're a burden. So that unconditional love, no blame, no judgment, is in the breath. I'm mean to the point of cruelty. Nice deep breath. There's no chatter. There's no, oh, you shouldn't have done that. How come you did that? There's no questions. It's just statement of truth, stating the data. Nice deep breath. That truth, I'm mean to the point of cruelty, has encoded in it somehow, some way, the frequency of the trauma that caused that truth. See, that truth is the truth of the subconscious. I'm not enough. So if I'm not enough, and that hurt to keep people away from me, which was my goal, is to stay safe. And I thought being alone was stay safe. I became mean. That's in alignment with the trauma. So in that, when I say I'm mean to the point of cruelty, that creates a vibration, and it's true. No blame, no judgment. Which on this line down below that bracket is self-validation. In other words, I'm accepting that I'm mean to the point of cruelty. I feel something, and I can't describe. It's a constellation of things. It's a whelming of, and then I find myself going, it is my intent to be a loving, caring, nurturing father, which is in alignment with, which is specific to the statement. And that starts a process or that is a process of healing. And I find myself different with my children. I find myself taking a breath when I see them speak, or doing something different. And me owning I'm mean to the point of cruelty to my children is what a loving, caring, nurturing father would do if he understood what he was doing, if he saw what he was doing. See, I used to couch that under the guise of discipline, getting them toughened up, making them ready for life because life sucks. I don't want to like send them out there vulnerable. And it was mean. I don't care what the justification was. It was it was fracturing. It was traumatic. It was hurtful. It was confusing, and created in them the adrenaline state that they grew up getting used to and wanting to live in. And that's how we pass on the intergenerational family of origin trauma, is through inflicting the same pain that was inflicted on me onto our children. So I intend to be a loving, caring, nurturing father is a command to this subconscious mechanism and filtering system, reticular activating system, to find that for me. It's not a do thing, it's a be thing. We're not humans doing, we're human beings. And we simply give it the reframed information, and it manifests, just like the trauma manifested. Well, the healed trauma, the reframed trauma manifests, but it's got my intent in it, my conscious choice. That's why choice and power on the brackets on the outside. My power to create is consistent from my family of origin childhood trauma. I created irritation, agitation, otherwise annoyed, huge amounts of adrenaline in my body because that's the way I knew to survive. I survived. All this in my subconscious. I couldn't articulate this. I would give you all kinds of reasons why I am the way I am, but none of them talked about the body chemistry of adrenaline that I was addicted to. That's self-validation, living intensely. And I just wrote about 6 months ago, freedom at the bottom. And because that's what I experienced, freedom from childhood reactions, freedom from held beliefs that are no longer true for me, like I'm not enough, freedom to express, freedom to teach, freedom to heal, freedom to be a catalyst for more people to move from this part of their body to this part of their body, put that in alignment and break into our imagination, imaginal, inspirational, and intuitive spaces that we are as human beings. We can't get to that through the trauma. Through the healing, we break into what we came here to be, which is creative beings. And it's not like I'm getting all spiritual and stuff. You know, we created automobiles, we created steam engines, we create creative beings that are practical for our life force and moving the societies that we created. We've gone in what you say a couple 100,000 years from banging rocks on rocks to having microscopes that can see, electron microscopes that can. That's creative. We're creative beings. So.
Well, thanks for that summary. And no matter what way you look at it, for those of you who are maybe seeing this for the first time, or you're hearing this again for the 90th time,
Yeah.
We're talking about something that is experienced. So we're explaining something that's experiential. And
Right.
John and I have both used our own experience to try to illustrate what we're talking about. So there's transformation that occurs, and I want to assert that it occurs because the body has wisdom that the mind does not have.
Right.
And so but the body cannot speak in language, and that's the mind's capacity. So in the long run, what I'm doing here is I'm seeking to have a unity of body mind, where the body and mind are always on the same page, where for most of us, it often seems the opposite. And it may be the opposite because we've the power, the mind has the power to obliterate feeling. The mind has the power to deflect feeling. The mind has the power to alter feeling. And that's part of the violence that we learn to do to ourselves as little kids. And it can just start out with a parent saying something like, "Oh, you don't feel that way."
Right.
Something as simple as that, some kind of contradiction of our actual experience from this authority figure and this person that we depend upon to survive causes us to doubt ourselves. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe even though my body feels this way, maybe there's something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're off and running into this world that we now have identified through this process.
Yeah.
So it's it's uh, it's a journey back to the body in a certain way. It's a journey to this pool of wisdom that's in the subconscious, in the body as well as in the mind. And this, as you know, in our Wednesday meeting, the gut check meeting, our focus there is on the unity of the mind and the body,
Mm-hmm.
seeking to generate that experience. I intend to feel my feelings and thoughts as one activity, for example. And like that experience I was sharing with you in Costa Rica, um, I kind of got there. Like
Yep.
the body and mind were allied in
Mm-hmm.
seeking the truth, no blame or judgment. And that's a great first step.
Yes. Wow.
Can you take the screen share down
Sure.
as we're going to wrap up here shortly?
Okay.
So accountability practice for, again, those of you who are watching, we do have a number of Zoom meetings that you can participate in and get this experience for yourself. We have meetings on Monday and Thursday nights at 6:30 Pacific time. We have this gut check meeting I was talking about Wednesday afternoons at 4 Pacific time, and then John's digging in the dirt meeting is Saturday mornings at 8:30, all Pacific time. And if you're interested in joining us at the end of the podcast, our wonderful editor Cindy will have listed our email addresses, and we'll be happy to send you the Zoom room addresses. But I urge you to come and check it out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed my life. I know that it's changed many other people's lives, and I've only just begun.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, me too.
Exactly. So as you enter your 75th year, um, any last minute thoughts before we wrap up? I think we sure covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we did. I like going over the basic material, getting back to the basic material, um, and showing people that there's an actual practice that they can engage in. At first, it takes guidance, um, and then it's something that you can take out with you in your daily walk. It's something you can have with you at any time, driving on the freeway, talking to your mom, dad, whatever. This tool about recognizing adrenaline in the body, recognizing you're in a reactive mode, which is adrenaline in your body, taking a breath and noticing it. I just reacted, I just dismissed whatever the truth is, take a nice deep breath. Oh, I want to be at peace in the midst of all this. All this, it's like when I first got in recovery, I wanted all this to change. I want everybody to act right. Now it's like, oh, it's me. I get to choose where I want to go. I've gained agency through this process. Yeah, thank you.
That's those elements at the bottom of the chart, the living intentionally freedom
Mm-hmm.
agency they're all intertwined
Yeah,
to my understanding.
yep.
Um, so I guess I'd like to just echo that, John, and just say that here's the interesting thing about the accountability practice. It's very simple.
Yeah.
It's very simple. I didn't say it's easy. I said it's simple. And as John said, we can do it anywhere. I can wake up in the middle of the night and do it. It's like, how am I feeling? This starts right there. How am I feeling? And then feel it.
Yeah.
And particularly if it's a difficult feeling, it's like that adrenaline thing that might make your breathing difficult or your heart's racing or like I was experiencing, you might feel constriction in your chest or you
Mm-hmm.
might feel tears.
Right.
The longer I can sit with that, the more powerful the experience. And just sit with it as long as I can, and then just simply ask, okay, well, what do I want to feel? What do I want to feel? And just my
Yeah.
my my support is wait till the answer shows up. But sometimes you go ahead and make the answer up. That's fine. Either way,
Doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter. Can't do it wrong.
No.
And then just state that as an intention. There's something we haven't talked about this in a while. Maybe we can do this next time, but there's something powerful about speaking it out loud. There's some
Yeah.
energetic truth that has transformative agency all by itself.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. I would like to do that. That's another at least an hour. I don't know if
yeah,
we get it all in an hour, but yeah.
yeah. So I mean, in the Christian tradition, as Christians know, that's the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and all things that were made came through the Word. So there's an ancient recognition of the power of the spoken word as a creative truth or a creative action.
Mhm.
So we'll wrap this up with some kind of spiritual insight. What the heck? And
There you go. There you go.
as always, good to be with you, John. Thank you so much for the share, and I look forward to the next one.
Yeah. Thank you, Marty. Love you.
Love you too.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye.